because as we all know, the waters can be choppy on earth. And the interesting thing about it is, for all of us, I feel, and I see this in lots of people like yourselves and people I know who are like yourselves, the opportunity here is to get a little more comfortable at surfing the choppy waters. And as we get more comfortable at surfing the choppy waters, we also find our power. You know, if you're someone who feels very thrown around by the energy in the world, if you're someone who feels very off, you know you've left your center. I'm not saying that we can't be in our center and also be in grief or be sad about something, because we can. But if you feel really off, and this is a big thing for empaths and sensitives, often an empath's journey or a sensitive's journey is to also find themselves, not just the rest of the world and the feelings of everyone they're connected to. There comes a time when an empath's job is no longer just to lose themselves in the outside world, but instead to find themselves inside. And perhaps there were reasons you became overly attuned to everyone else. Maybe you were neglected. Maybe nobody paid any attention to you. Maybe as a protection mechanism, it was important for you because of the family you were raised in or the group that you grew up with, that you had to be hyper-vigilant about everyone's feelings and everyone's needs. There comes a point when that breaks your back and it breaks your spine. And the gift when those moments come that can often break our heart, you know, it can often make us feel lost or sad or upset or like the world is coming to an end. Well, in a way, the world is coming to an end. The world of you taking on everybody else and everything else. That's when the really interesting stuff starts, because you start to reclaim what I call the abandoned self, the inner parts of us that are really asking to be here and be present. And like many of you, I have my own version of that story I just described. If I go back through my life, the last 10, 20 years, and of course, still now, you know, there are finer layers of it, there are finer lessons around it, but reclaiming who we are here to be is not only something we are designed to do, something we are allowed to do, it's something we absolutely have to do. And that leads me into some of the messages I wanted to give you this year. If you're somebody who has been great at making everyone else around you comfortable, this is going to be a year about you making you comfortable. Not necessarily at the expense of other people, not doing things for yourself that willingly hurt or block or upset other people, not at all. But if you're somebody who has had a bit too much of a focus on the outer world, or a bit too much of a focus on the people around you, the people outside you, 2023 is going to demand that you get back into your center, that you get back into your spine. And this will be delivered one of a few ways, depending on who you are, how it's showing up for you, the speed you want to go at. There's going to be a really big call for some people to get back into themselves through certain opportunities, relationships, situations, seemingly changing against your will. Seemingly against your will or against your expectation, things that you thought were certainties in your life suddenly are going to change in a way that might cause an emotional reaction for you. And the thing with any emotional reaction for all of us to ask is this the present or is this history? I know for me, 9 times out of 10, my emotional reactions are historic. I'm not saying that I should ignore what's going on in the present, but when I have a big emotional reaction, I'm always interested in noticing, okay, what just triggered this and how many times have I felt this before and what were the previous situations and what's the theme or the through line for me here that I need to learn from. So phase 1 of you being put back into yourself in 2023, if you feel in any way out of yourself, maybe even just a bit, Maybe you've done a lot of work around this, but there's going to be a little refinement this coming year. The phase one is going to be, or the one way it's going to show up is what I just described. Seemingly relationships, situations, or things that you thought were very certain, that you felt very held in, all of a sudden they change, they shift, they disappear, or they push you away. And in the moment, that can bring up emotion, whether it's abandonment, rejection. So often, as a human, when we're going through this, it doesn't always feel great. And I've certainly had my times when I, have had my, oh. But what the Z's always remind, and I now see more of this in real time as it's happening than I used to be able to. Great, there are 5 things going on at once. Yes, you're getting back into your spine and your center. And that's why you've been pushed out of that friendship. Yes, you're also processing some of your rejection or abandonment issues, because the way they pushed you out of that friendship taps onto 5 other times in your life where there was an emotional eruption or a wounding for you. And great, you can just feel another layer of that wounding. 3, now you're also in uncertainty, and you don't like uncertainty. You have a relationship where you panic or you try and control if things are uncertain. So that's another great complexity for you to now wrestle with, because you don't need to know. It's okay. The universe knows, your soul knows, your human doesn't know everything. It isn't supposed to know everything. Often our humans are playing catch up. So that's what I mean by there can be multiple layers to any one situation, but especially when we have a big reaction in life, there's usually more than 3 things going on at once, and yet as human beings we tend to want to put it into one box. This would be a good example of when we villainize someone else. I go back into some of my earlier romantic relationships in my 20s and my early 30s, and if my rejection or my abandonment wound or whatever it was came up, it was very easy for me to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they are that person. Well, they're not that person. They're that person to me in that moment because that's where I'm holding them. But actually, there's a whole series of complexities going on for them as well. A very good friend of mine just shared a great thing with me that was very congruent. Yesterday, my friend said that they were watching a great interview with John Edward, who is a psychic, not someone I'm super familiar with, but I know his name. And the friend was saying that in this interview, John Edward had said, look at where someone might be sabotaging a relationship that you're in. And you might be seeing them as lazy or not committed or uncaring, but actually what's often underneath sabotage is that person knows they're not supposed to go with you. They can't go where you're going, and equally, you're not supposed to go where they're going. So sabotage might be the way that the universe separates the two of you. That's what I mean by there are more complexities to our human dynamics and interactions than we often think. So that's kind of the difficult way. The other way might just be a blinding clarity that you start to have about certain things, and it might be a little bit shocking. At first you might be like, oh my God, I'm suddenly clear that this thing I've been working on for 2 years that I thought was absolutely what I was supposed to work on, all of a sudden I've got this clarity that I'm supposed to let it go. And of course then you go, oh, but I've put 2 years into it and da-da-da-da. The universe banks things for us. I firmly believe that. It's like no relationship is a waste. I once was with a friend and they were like, oh my God, I wasted 3 years with that person. I went, no, you didn't. You had a really difficult last year with that person. You had a really great first year and it healed a lot of your relationship wounds. Your second year was a bit but that's also because you haven't yet got to the place where you know what you fully want in a relationship. And in a relationship that it fully balances for you and for them. So the reason I'm bringing this up is we will all go through human, mental, emotional healing moments around the changes in 2023. And I know in our self-growth community, metaphysical community, and this is something I've been afflicted by, there can be this tendency to go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm having these thoughts, or oh my God, I can't believe I'm feeling this, or I'm thinking this. And the Z's would say, great, you're feeling this, you're thinking this, and more importantly, you're noticing you are, because that's awareness. And awareness leads us to change, conscious change, without us stepping back, looking at things, having clarity around why are we doing something? Is this a habit that we need to break? Is this a pattern that we need to break? Often what comes up for us in our thoughts and our feelings is great information about the lowest and the highest points in ourselves. For those of us who are sensitive, intuitive, or walking a spiritual path, it is our practices and the support that we have in our life that often is the key to how well we can walk through life. 9 years ago, I created the portal to be an answer to that need for members of my community who wanted to go more in depth with my work. And while my work is still very much a centerpiece of the portal, we have now added other teachers, other voices, other offerings, so that the portal can become a well-rounded place for you to receive nourishment and be uplifted, shifted, and supported every single month. My aim with the portal has always been to offer you as much value for your membership as possible. And I feel like in the last year or so, we have really been able to maximize that. So we look forward to welcoming you to the portal, and we hope it is a place that can nourish your mind, your body, and your soul.